So, hello everyone. How is everyone doing today? Good. I hope that lunch is settling in. Fine. Yeah. Okay, good. So, as Casper says, my name is David Gonzalez. I come from Colombia, and I will be presenting you today the OSPF and IPV6. This was my topic for the train-the-trainer session. As you can see, luckily, money was well worth it. Certified trainer, so thank God, and yeah. So, let's get to it. IPv6 and OSPF version 3 basics. So, I would like to know how many of the attendants here has worked with IPv6? Everyone that has done it, you can raise your hands. Don't worry, I'm not asking you or telling you to do anything weird. So, has anyone actually worked with it in production? Good, good. So there's knowledgeable people here. And how many of you have actually implemented OSPF version 3? Production or grade? Any carrier grade implementations? So, okay, I'm gonna tell you a little about me. I'm a telecommunications engineer. Been doing Linux for a couple of years now. Also have done some consultancy in my country and for foreign companies abroad. I'm an independent network consultant, and yeah, there is one missing, yeah. One missing down there. I'm a network associate from MikroTik, routing engineer, traffic control engineer, and now trainer. And that's all about me. So the roadmap that we will be following throughout the presentation will be to try to introduce and show to you about IPv6. Why is it important? Why should we embrace and try to adapt IPv6? Something about the addressing. How does addressing work? How would you set up your devices? Routing on IPv6, doing IPv6 on your MikroTik device, and we'll discuss some about OSPF version 3. The lab is just the activity for the train-the-trainer, so we won't go through that. And we try to answer a Q&A session, small one if possible. So, IPv6. Why is IPv6 needed? As many of you might know, IPv4 has a limit of addresses that can be used. So basically when they created the protocol and that standard, to be specific, they thought that we would only need 4.3 billion addresses. Well, seems now that it was a mistake. You can see by the lines on the slide, I hope there is no colorblind people here. Anyway, I'm going to tell you, red line, near 4.3 billion. Black line is the number of users. And that astonishingly steep curve is the number of connections that we now have on the internet. That means devices connected to the internet. So basically that's 20 billion with a B. 20 billion. When we talk about that, we know that you not only connect your computer to the internet, your laptop, your tablet, your smartphone, but domotics make even your refrigerator, your laundry machine, whatever, even your pillow has connectivity. Everything is now connected. Some other vendors name it the Internet of Stuff, let's say, things. So you know the need. That's what I am pointing out to you. There is need. What you say? Oh, well, I mean, I have no problems with connectivity. I haven't seen that. Really? I just open any browser and I can browse the web. I can use it on my cell phone. I can use it on my internet-assisted GPS. So I don't see the problem. Well, there is. There is a nasty thing about IPv4. And I come to those of you guys that have worked with voice over IP. What happens when I say NAT and voice over IP? All wrinkles. Oh, yeah. No one likes to do a voice over IP when you have to NAT. So, let's see what happens with IPv6. Some of the features. IPv6 has a lot of addresses. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. We have, it's like 3 undecillion addresses available. Undecillion, that's a huge, huge number. I wish we all had that amount on our bank accounts, but not happening anytime soon, but at least we have IPv6, yeah. So that's good. So let's go through the features. Much larger address space, undecillions. Well, spare addresses everywhere. It supports stateless and stateful configuration. Stateless and stateful is, like I was talking about, DHCP, the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol that we see on IPv4. But on IPv6, you have a very nice option that you do not actually need to set up a DHCP. You simply advertise the prefix to your devices and they will just get connected. So, built-in security. For all of those of you security junkies out there, there is IPsec included. No tweaking around, no tinkering with stuff, just built in. Also, multicast. There is new header on IP pockets that allows faster forwarding. So that's one of the nifty features. And also, those of you that have broadband IP TV or do video streaming, live teleconferencing and all that, you have multicast also embedded. Pretty nice until now, no? Let me wet it. So, IPv6, the definition, you have the RFC documents, request for comments. This is where the standards are defined. There's lots of documentations about that. If you're into reading a lot, burning your eyelashes, and feeding your brains with info, there you have lots of it. RFC available. And here we go to the fun part, the number. As you see by that upper blue, clear bluish line, you see IPv4 formed of 32 bits of addresses compared to IPv6. So big difference, 4.3 billion. So that's 340 undecillion. So we run into a deficit, 2 to the 96 power. That's 79 trillions addresses that we have available. Who has 79 trillion of anything? They compare this like this is the sands, the grains of sand on all the beaches on Earth. So, pretty big number. Who could have counted that? I don't think there is time. But there you go, the addressing schema. So, this blue address that you see there, it's a very well-known address. That's the DNS address for Google. If you look at those last 4 numbers, does it ring a bell? That's the public DNS, which in IPv4 terms, we would refer as 8.8.4.4. And yes, 8888 is also available. So you can use those. What I bring this for is the notation. Does it seem different? It does look different. IPv6 addresses are composed of not octets, but double the size. So that would be hextets. They are hexadecimal numbers. So addresses are formed out of numbers, digits, from 0 to 9, and the letters from A to F. There is no lowercase, uppercase, doesn't matter. It's there in uppercase because it's easier to see. And you can do pretty nice things with IPv6 addresses. One of the examples that I want to bring to your attention is the numbers. There are green zeros there. In IPv6, we can abbreviate the addresses. Who would ever take the time or go through the pain of learning all of these numbers? No one. We don't even remember a phone number now. So how can you do that? So basically, there are rules for abbreviating the addresses. If you have a subsequent amount of zeros that are all zeros, bear that in mind, you can just strip that amount of zeros by a double colon, as you see on the example below. So that long address becomes this easier to read one. What do I win with this? Well, easier to set up, easier to remember, and makes things a lot easier. We humans go sometimes with easier things. They are easier to learn. You can also remove leading zeros. When you have zeros to the left of your address, you can remove that. Yeah, some of us have sometimes felt like a zero to the left of something. Yeah, they can be removed. But not doing that, because that would be a no-no. Doing that with the zeros to the right. Big analogy, small analogy, whatever you can call it. Yeah, who would like to receive $0,001 compared to $1,000,000? That will be a big deficit. So, abbreviations possible with leading zeros, but cannot be done with trailing zeros. This is the difference between the IPv6 and IPv4 packets. You can see the different fields that we have available in IPv4 compared to the amount of fields available on IPv6. By the convention, you can see that the blue ones, the bluish, some were removed, just one added, and they were also renamed, some of them. Because it makes it easier to read. Does anyone here have a guess? Why does this look bigger? Why would we need a bigger destination and source address? Can anyone take a guess? That's completely right. We need more space because we have to deal with 128 bit of addresses. That's a lot of numbers, that's a lot of bits. But can you see what happens here? Faster forwarding. How does it do it? Well, that's the magic of IPv6. That's why we should, now in your notes, in your digital notes, your brain notes, you just say, oh, I should embrace that. Yeah, you need to embrace it, to love it, to want it. You need to do that because that will help your network. I'm not kidding when I say that. We need to implement IPv6. That you will hear me say it throughout the presentation. We need to embrace IPv6. We ran out of IPv4 addresses in 2011. 2012 was a no-no. Yeah, so that's when IPv6 was rolled out in production, but well, it's yet not been implemented. Here you have difference between the pockets that are pointed out there. And yeah, there is a big difference. One of the ones that catched my eyes was the TTL. Everyone here knows what the time to live is. The time the packet will take before it times out, gets sold, gets bold. Yeah. So in IPv6, you see it called like the way it should be called, hop limit. How many times the packet will traverse the network so it can be actually discarded or dropped. That's about packets. IPv6 address types. There is anycast, there is unicast, and there is multicast addresses. Also, there is loopback addresses, and you can see the prefix types. They are all FF0, that's the multicast prefix, and that's the way you will find prefixes defined mostly on when you see documentation, settings. You will see the types of addresses and you will see prefixes. As you see, there is no notation like the CIDR notation. That will be like this. You advertise a prefix and you see the double colon on the undefined address, the double colon 1/128. That's our good old 127.0.0.1. You write it down like that. MikroTik support of IPv6. Yay! That's the one we want to go through. IPv6 is fully supported on MikroTik router OS devices. So, what was that? So, basically, there you go. IPv6 supports most of the addresses that are available on IPv6. And one of the things that I should mention about IPv6 and going back to the theory about it is that, and going in comparison to NAT and what we were discussing before, IPv6 addresses are all public. Yeah, and when I say all, I don't mean all of them, because there are prefixes like the loopback interface or the link local address, which is the FA80 address that is not routable. You cannot route that address to the public internet. And all devices on MikroTik, when they are active, they will have one of those addresses assigned automatically to them. It cannot be disabled, it cannot be removed, or even changed. That's MikroTik, the features that you will find available through MikroTik: DNS, 6in4, SSH, Telnet, FTP. Most, and when I say most, there you have a big comprehensive list that's taken from the MikroTik wiki actually. That's the features that MikroTik router OS actually and currently supports from IPv6. What you can do with it: DNS, firewall filters. You can do firewalling with IPv6, which is something that you should consider. Sadly, these are the ones that are not currently supported, but as I said on the training, yeah, Janice, all you guys, MPLS should be on the top of the list, isn't it? MPLS is something to consider adding, but I think and I know that would need a lot of work done, but that's something that will not be available for you to embrace IPv6. So, IPv6 and OSPF. OSPF, as it's known by many of you, it's a dynamic link state routing protocol. So what it does, it advertises our networks and helps us choose to the packets, not actually us, but the packets when they are traveling through networks to choose the fastest, the open shortest path first. That is what the acronym stands for. That's where IPv6 version of OSPF is defined, RFC 5340. That's what these standards are, and these are the protocols currently supported by IPv6, the routing protocols. I have BGP plus missing there, but it's also supported. OSPF, little definition, you know what it supports. In OSPF version 3, you do not actually need to advertise a network, but you do it with a prefix, and it's done by advertising your interface. The interface that you will set up the address on, and it would advertise that prefix. And advertising through the OSPF area. When I say advertise, we need to be careful with the term, because they can, OSPF, it's one type of advertisements, obviously the LSAs, but IPv6 has also that feature that I was commenting before, which is the stateless and stateful auto configuration. And when you set up your address in MikroTik and you check the little check mark that says advertise, all devices that you connect and have the IPv6 capability enabled will get one of those addresses assigned to them. So something to watch out for. Now you have the LSA types. Mostly IPv6 didn't change OSPF that much. What would you consider that was the biggest change to be done or implemented in OSPF version 3? What would you say?
The length or the size of the packet?
Not exactly, but it's close. It's the address space. We have larger prefixes, 128 bits. Bear in mind that with IPv4 and OSPF version 2, we had to use 32 bits. Now we need a larger amount of data traversing our network. So that's one of the biggest changes. And the other one to note is the fact that you do not advertise networks. When you go to the area, and remember for the OSPF normal IPv4 setups, you just need to advertise the /something network, and it would be part of the OSPF area. Now you simply enable that interface on your routing OSPF version 3, and you will be advertising that specific prefix. And that's something to note when it comes to security considerations on your network. Be sure which prefixes you would advertise, because advertising /8, that would be bad, or /48, that would make billions and billions and billions and billions of addresses available. And what I said, remember, on IPv4, not all addresses are public. IPv6 has a term called global unicast. What global unicast comes into play is that most addresses are publicly available. So when you, for example, to Hurricane Electric, and you sign up for the free tunneling service, as I did to test, you need to make sure that your devices that are IPv6 capable and that are connected to that network are secured. Because when you do that, you are giving a public address to that device. So it's publicly available. Is there no firewall? Well, there will be blood, sweat, and tears, kids screaming. Yeah, so that's not good. So that would be about it for this presentation. This is mostly to open your minds to the need that we have to implement IPv6 on our networks. You test it, you can try it. It's free. You can use Tunnel Broker from Hurricane Electric, implement it on your routers, use it on your specific situations, test it out, see if you can roll it out to production, because the current use, according to Google statistics and most of the statistical documents on the web, is that the penetration of IPv6 on the current internet is 0.01%. North America has an advantage over the rest of us. There's that some you can count them practically with your fingers, has IPv6 connectivity. I was told that MikroTik website does support IPv6, so yeah, good. And many of the big companies do support, but just if you have always IPv6 enabled, try to ping CNN.com or CBS.com, ping 6, www.cnn.com. You will most probably get a timeout. So my idea is that we need to embrace, we need to adapt IPv6. It's a need. With all of the consideration, with all of the benefits, some of the drawbacks and the problems that you might encounter, but it's there. And if it's there, why not use it? MikroTik supports it. So your implementations, either for your CPEs, for your internal servers, or what have you, can be done with IPv6. So please consider it, and I hope to hear some comments next year from those guys that were able to do it. Thank you very much for your time. You were a great audience. Thank you.